What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Move Better channel. I'm your host, Dr. Joe, and this is the Professor John Penisarada. Today, we're going to talk to you guys about 3 exercises that you guys can do to alleviate those tight hamstrings. So you got to do like the those tight hamstrings. Let's go ahead and get it started. All right, John, let's go ahead and let's check it out. Let's see how far can you reach down, touch your toes. Now, here's the thing, everyone. Everybody thinks that tight hamstrings are due to a shortened hamstring, when in fact, sometimes, not all the time, sometimes those hamstrings, no matter how much you stretch it, no matter how much you roll it out, no matter how many times you get a massage on it, you just can't let it release. One of the things that we might be dealing with is not necessarily a shortened hamstring, but a lengthened hamstring. Think of it this way. Your body always wants to try to keep yourself upright. And sometimes your body kind of loses that battle, and so it starts to tighten up. And so we have what we call a length-tension relationship issue. And what we need to do is sometimes need to activate it. We need to create some strength to it in order to feel that release. And by doing some of these exercises, you might find yourself in a position that actually releases all of that tension in those hamstrings. So let's get going with a few of these exercises. So we're gonna go for a very light load here. All we're trying to do is trying to activate those hamstrings in a way that allows them to shorten up. Sometimes, again, like I said, it might not be a shortened hamstring, it might be a lengthened hamstring. So we're gonna try to get them to contract a little bit by doing a simple exercise. You guys can put your feet on top of a chair, on top of your bed, lay down on your back, but notice his angle here. He's at a 90-degree angle at this point, and all we're gonna try to do is bridge those hips straight up. And from here, we're gonna kind of shorten those hamstrings as his knees are bent, as his hips are raised. We're lengthening the tissues of the hips, which a lot of people who are sitting down all day long might be struggling from. So this activation technique, we're putting a lot more of the load onto those hamstring muscles. Now, if this is way too easy, I know we have a lot of athletes that are out there. This might be way too easy for you guys, but for most of our viewers out there that don't get enough movement, that don't go for the strengthening exercise, this might just be enough to help you release some of those tensions. Now, I have him hold it up here for about, a minute at a time. We'll do about 2 to 3 sets of this, and then we're gonna go ahead and retest to see how far we've actually increased length. Now, of course, go ahead and relax, John. There's a few tests that we do to see if it's actually a shortened hamstring or a lengthened hamstring. We wanna see some raises, we wanna see some rotational movements of the hip. These are just some quick general guidelines that we would do for somebody that needed some hip extension and some hamstring flexion. Or a hamstring contraction. So John, go ahead and bridge up. If we want to make it a little bit harder for you, John, we're just going to lift one leg up off the ground, and we're just going to see if this is going to start to tighten up. Now, always start with the bent leg first. Then the more he starts to get challenged, we're going to start to lengthen the tissues a little bit more. Go ahead and relax, John. At this point, now we're going to go a little bit more long lever, okay? The longer the lever, the harder it's going to start to be for all of our patients. Now, we want to just go from this position first, and we're just going to see where it works. Go ahead and bridge your hips. Now, I don't want this to be working his lower back. So if you guys feel this in your lower back and you feel your lower back is doing too much work, go ahead and take a step down, go back to the knee bent position, go onto the bed or the chair, and that should help out a little bit more. So the longer the lever that we're working, the harder it's going to start to be on either his lower back or on his hips. But do you feel this in your hamstrings?
Yes, sir.
You feel that whole posterior chain firing, right?
Oh, yeah.
So when I say the whole posterior chain, it's going from his feet all the way up to his back. We want those hamstrings firing part of that posterior chain. Go ahead and relax. Now, if we want to make this a little bit harder, once again, we just lift one leg up off the ground and we work the tissues to try to get them to shorten up a little bit, okay?
Yep.
Go ahead and relax. Now the last exercise, now that we know that he can handle a longer lever, we want to try to get him up into a standing position, and we want to see what kind of load and capacity he could take while doing it from a standing position. So we want to go down into a flexion, a hip hinge. As he goes down, he wants to just put some load into that. Now, if you guys can't hold your balance here, John, come on in the middle over here, turn, face this way, and go into that position. If you guys can't handle that position and you guys can't balance on a single leg, here we just have some support. We want to take, right now we're actually lengthening the tissues, we're stretching them out, but we want to try to take as much load as we can onto it. So John, even though he's holding on, he's going to try to relax his fingers a little bit, get onto it, and just have it there for support, just in case he feels like he's going to fall over. Now go ahead and stand on up. Now as he stands up, now we're shortening those hamstrings. We're trying to get them to contract. So the biggest part about this exercise is, yes, we want to go into a load, we want to tension that hamstring, but the most important part, come on up, 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 working that hip extension, stretching or tightening up those muscles as he comes forward. You're going to go down again, feel the stretch lightly, and then come right back up. So the more we do these exercises, the more we put the load on it, the more he goes through his range of motion, the more he works on that hip hinge and that hip extension, the more we're going to get the tissues, the muscles, to work on contraction and eccentric contraction, which is opening up the muscle. So we're going to go back and forth, closing it up and opening it up, and that's going to help us loosen up the tension of those hamstrings. All right, John, let's go ahead and just retest. Let's see if we can do this. Can you go all the way down?
Oh, look at that. Voila.
Voila. Voila.
Voila.
Good stuff, you guys. So now we got those tissues to loosen up. We don't necessarily need to work too much on lengthening the tissues and stretching them out. Again, the more you guys get the muscle to contract and activate and release and do it all three phases of the contraction, isotonic contraction as well, we can increase movement of those hamstrings. Thanks again for joining us. Like, subscribe, share, send it to all your friends and family, everyone who is dealing with those tight hamstrings, and let's go ahead and get them loosened up.
Let's roll.
Thanks, you guys. See you guys in the next video.